Hi, I'm Renée Walker, a mindset mentor, speaker, and lover of all things spiritual. I believe that at our core, we are all spiritually wired for love, peace, success, and abundance. Here on the podcast, we're diving into mindset, wellness, and business, but always through a spiritual lens. Let's just say we're going deep, but we're keeping it light. So let's elevate your life from the inside out, one conversation at a time. Welcome to Spiritually Wired. Welcome back to the Spiritually Wired podcast. This is part 2 of my birthday podcast episode where I am sharing the 10 lessons that I learned in my 40s. Last episode, the 5 lessons that I shared were that aging is a privilege, that the bigger things in life you don't see coming, so there's really no need to worry. Learning to receive is everything. Lesson 4 was no one's got to figure it out. And lesson 5 was that you're either going to inspire or trigger people, and it has nothing to do with you. So this episode, we are going to continue expanding on these lessons. I also have a bonus lesson for you, and we're going to go straight to it. Enjoy the episode. Okay, lesson 6. Your kids pay attention more than you think. So it's not really what you say, but it's how you show up that teaches them the most. And this is something that I've shared before. I know in one of my very first podcast episodes, which was coming out of the spiritual closet, I shared how I felt that for a long period of time, I almost had like 2 versions of me. And it's not that the 2 one was fake and one was real. I just felt as if some parts of me, I was allowing myself to really fully explore and be in some settings, and then other parts at home, more socially, I felt like maybe I was holding back a little bit. I was, fearing some judgment. So I was keeping things a little bit more, quote, like normal, if you will. And with my kids, I've never wanted to convince them of anything. So I've been doing this personal development, spiritual work pretty much from the time they were born. Matthew, my oldest was a toddler and he's turning 25 soon. And my youngest was, I think, 1, right? So they were babies. They didn't know what was happening. And I always have known that I have grown up with my kids. I really feel that way, that it's not that I was that young. It was just maturing and learning about myself and really being on that path. And so my kids saw in the beginning, definitely a mom with a very active nervous system. And not that my nervous system is not active now, but they have been able to witness the shift and the change. I know that now, but I always wondered. And as I've chosen to go more or to really embrace the work that I'm doing, again, for years when I was doing even my work part, I felt like I was keeping it tightly to the side because I didn't want it to affect their lives. So it was like these 2 things where I was just running around and working towards my dreams, but at the same time, I was making sure that it didn't impact them. And so it has been really in the past few years, and part of it is just my kids being older, and so they are more mature now to be able to process things in a different way. but it has come full circle where they will say things where they will call me before something big that's happening. And so we can talk through, some mindset stuff, or opening up the dialogue, the conversation. And that has been the greatest gift. And so all of these years where sometimes I wondered, oh, did I not teach them enough about it? The confirmation has been that, there's this saying, show, don't tell, that they have been listening and they have been observing. And it's not because they don't say anything to you that they're not learning from you. So that has been just a big lesson. Just keep showing up as yourself and just trust that they are receiving more. And also energetically speaking, when you work on your energy, it 1,000% affects the energy in your home and in your relationships and in the space that you're in. So the more that you work on yourself, the more that it will just ripple into every part of your being, and that includes your kids. So if you're a mom or a dad and you're listening to this, just know that they are paying attention more than you think. Lesson number 7, the less you try to figure it out, the more that it makes sense. The elusive search for clarity and trying to make sense of things. That has been a big lesson as well. What I've learned is that when I am seeking clarity, I need to let go of my attachment to it. Most of the time, what's in the way of the clarity that I need is my attachment to things looking a certain way. And so what I've learned this past decade more and more is that the less I seek it, the less I try to control it, the less attached I am to the outcomes, the more I'm actually able to tune into it. So when we're trying to make sense of things, so something happens in your life and you're probably like me where you're like, okay, what is the lesson? What am I here to learn? Well, the moment you're trying to figure it out, that means you're in your head trying to figure it out. Whatever the clarity is, it's not going to come from your thoughts. It's going to come from your higher self. Your higher self is going to speak to you in a different language, whether it's through your heart. So it's a knowing, it's a sensation, it is, something a sign that you see or whatever it may be. But it's rarely going to come from trying to figure it out in your thoughts. So you want to zoom out. When you're zooming out, you're taking a step back. You gain a fresh new perspective on what's happening. You let go of it. You surrender it. And so in that letting go is where the clarity that you're seeking reveals itself. So you can't force it. You can only allow it to be. When in meditation, we set intentions, and I'm always like, when you're asking, what do you want to allow for that to come. You don't want to think about it, because when you're thinking about it, you're forcing it. So when you're trying to make sense of something, you're forcing it into existence. And so that has been a big lesson, is just stop trying to figure it out, stop trying to make sense of it, and just allow for the answers to reveal themselves. And trust in the power of surrendering it. So let it go. Let go of the attachment. Lesson number 8. What scares you the most is usually where your next level of growth is. Yep, that is the truth. It's a little bit linked to what we were speaking of earlier, but that had a different tone of like the triggering. This here, and that would have been lesson number 5, which is you're either inspiring people or you're triggering people. And when we were talking about that lesson, we spoke about the fact that resistance is always here to teach us. And so this has been a big lesson. If I just zero in on that, is that what you fear the most, what scares you the most, is usually where your next level of growth is. So I had this fear of being seen. And it's so interesting because, you know, it's not a fear that may have looked obvious to people, but it was one that I could feel. And I remember telling a coach one time, the more I was witnessing it, is just the all eyes on me. Like the all eyes on me just made me want to shrink and to be small and to turn away. And, you know, all of the beliefs of who are you and what do you have to say and all of those things, right, would be heightened in that moment. Like anything, the only way out is through. And so working on releasing, healing this fear of being seen, which I would say now I feel really good about. And it's not that it's not still uncomfortable. It still is uncomfortable to a certain extent. But once again, I've increased my capacity around it. So now my discomfort level, I've got a pretty big bandwidth of it. And I know that I'm going to survive it because fear is survival based. And so we don't always have to know what happened, but oftentimes it's triggered to something in our past or something, it could even be from a previous lifetime. There's a fear there that is just, you know, embedded in your subconscious. And it can take a lifetime of uncovering what those fears are, of realizing it. But the reality is that we only really get to know them by stretching ourselves into it. And so this fear of, in my case, being seen was holding me back from doing things that I knew my soul was guiding me towards. And so the way in which I could really be or live with purpose was to face the fear and do it anyway. Or is it feel the fear and do it anyway? There's this book. So that has been another big lesson that I've really been embodying, integrating in my 40s, has been just whatever the fear is a teacher, is guiding you. Yes, sometimes it is guiding you. It's redirecting you somewhere. So that's why we're always paying attention. We're always asking, is this coming from love? Is this coming from fear? So really tuning in, like, where is this fear coming from? Because the fear can come from a place of love in the sense of it's an opportunity for healing. So that has been a big lesson. Lesson number 9 is it's about doing less, not more. That is one that I am really carrying with me in my 50s. I do believe that the magic is in simplicity and not in overextending yourself. So that's been a big one that I'm actively working towards incorporating into my life. I have this idea. I don't know if you've ever been on Pinterest, but Pinterest has these capsule wardrobes, and I'm obsessed with looking at these capsule wardrobes. And the idea is that you only have like 10 tops and well, that's probably a big capsule wardrobe, but that would be the least amount I could do. So you have a certain number of tops, a certain number of pants, and everything is interchangeable so that you have like fewer pieces. And the fewer things that you have, the fewer things you have to think about, right? So when we're thinking about, oh, what am I going to wear tomorrow? It brings in so much decision fatigue. The fewer things you have when they're carefully selected and it's a choice and you love what you have, then it just makes life so much easier because now you're not wasting energy on figuring out what you're going to work on. But this simplicity thing extends, that's an example. It's in your life. How can you simplify? How many things are you saying yes to? So how many obligations do you have that you can let go of? How can you make your life simpler? So one of the things that we did in the past few years is we did invest in a vacation property. That's been a lot of fun that we enjoy. And that was such, for me, an interesting experience or experiment in that it gave me that, what I loved about it, or what I realized, is how much I loved having just fewer things and how freer in my mind I was. So there's this simplicity in what you own. And then in our home, we've also downsized and we've been just letting go of so many things that we had accumulated. And we are just now finally in a place of feeling settled. But that whole process, I feel so much lighter. And I've been extending that in my business. Like, how can I simplify things? How can I have certain processes that will help me to keep things simple? And life is like that, right? I remember reading somewhere where they say you spend the first part of your life just accumulating stuff to then spend the last part of your life just getting rid of all that stuff. So simplicity is one of my core main themes and values that I'm bringing into this new decade and beyond. Is I just want to keep things light. And so to me, simplicity equals lightness. And I don't want to carry heaviness. I want to be light when I am, choosing foods that I want to eat. I want to fuel my body that is going to help me feel light in my body. Like the foods that I know are not good for me, the reality is that they make me feel heavy. They don't make me feel light. So simplicity, lightness is what I am choosing, right? It's not about doing more, it's about doing less. Lesson number 10, you need to feel safe in order to grow and heal. Safety within yourself and in your environment is really it's the foundation. So nervous system regulation and recognizing how fundamentally important it is to feel safe in our bodies, to feel safe in our minds, to feel safe in our hearts, to feel safe in our spaces, how important that is in order to be able to grow and to heal. That's not something, that was not an awareness that I had back in my 30s. Part of it is that we weren't talking about it in the same way. Now we have language, we have vocabulary for it. The more that we understand how important the nervous system is to our health at every single level, that has been so key for me, honestly. And also recognizing that when I am off, when something happens and I do have that momentary freak out, I'm able to see it differently. I'm able to understand that it's a nervous system activation and not that it excuses anything. If you're going to be whatever it is, if you're not being nice to the people around you, it's not that it excuses that, but it helps in giving you some form of understanding of what is happening. And also it removes the blame that maybe in the past you would have placed on someone else. Like, that's your fault. You did something to make me upset, and that's your fault. Now it's like, yeah, okay, maybe you did something that's irritating, but really the reality is that my nervous system is super activated. So what can I do? And again, your nervous system, you need to show it, not tell it. So what can you do to support it right now? I can go outside, I can go for a walk, I can take a time out, I can do some tapping, I can listen to music that's going to settle me. I can make sure that I eat foods that are going to support my nervous system so that, I know the whole hangry thing, it's a real thing. So I can make sure that I'm eating properly. So that means that I need to plan, if I've got a big day where there's a lot of calls and I don't have a lot of time in between those calls, I'm going to have to make sure that I've got some food there to eat so that I can support my nervous system. So that has been another one, that huge lesson that I know is a lifetime thing, because we are living in an environment now where our nervous system is being always activated. There's so many stimulus. There's so much stimulus for it. So prioritizing my nervous system, something that I've learned in my 40s that is definitely coming with me in my 50s as well and beyond. So those are the 10 lessons. I was going to share a little bonus lesson here. And there is a song that is called "You Can't Rush the Healing." That has been an anthem in the past, definitely in my 40s, realizing that we cannot rush the healing. There is, when it comes to, again, healing at all levels, there's no timeline to it. Everything, a basic quote, basic injury that happens on a physical level, there's so many different layers to it. Usually those challenges, those setbacks that happen, they happen in a way, there's something bigger that is going on. And the less you try to rush through it, the more you actually are giving your entire being, your mind, your body, your heart, the space to heal. So that you can't rush it. And boy, that's not easy, because patience is definitely a virtue. And I would say the other piece to not rushing is you can't rush the healing, but you also can't rush the manifesting. Now that goes a little bit against some of the talk that we hear. But what I mean by that, and I remember Bob Proctor in the book Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life, he says, every seed has a gestational period. So we know, a fetus, right? It takes 9 months, and certain seeds for certain vegetables have their own, periods in which a seed will grow. But there's no set gestational period for a spiritual dream. And that piece there has been so freeing for me, because a part of me was always thinking like, I'm behind, like, oh, these things should have happened. But when I finally, like when you say everything is happening for me in perfect divine timing, it's divine. You can't force it into being. So the gift of perspective is we get to look back and we get to see that everything unfolds in a way, oh, this brings you here. And this is what you learned here. This is the person you met here. This is what, and this leads you to this. And then this here feels like you're taking like 10 steps back because it's a detour, a setback. But in reality, what it did was redirect you towards somewhere else because you're now ready to see that something else. So when you truly trust that everything is happening for you, you can let go of trying to rush anything. It's almost laughable when you find yourself trying to control it, because in rushing it, it means you're trying to control it. And so pure manifestation happens when we let go of controlling it, let go of the attachments that you have to it as well. So that has been a huge lesson when it comes to, or a huge lesson that I've learned in my 40s, that of course it's a universal lesson that will continue to be. So I hope these lessons resonated with you in some way. I got to say, it wasn't always easy to narrow it down to 10, but I just find that when you can take the time to reflect back on what you have learned, it's really always incredible, because we tend to forget, right? We're always focusing on the lack, on the gap. And when you take the time to reflect back in your own life on some of the lessons that you've learned, it just gives you an opportunity to really bring yourself into a space of gain, right? Of being able to recognize, like, wow, yes, these were difficult challenges, but from that is how I was able to move through something, or this is what I learned from it. So it's always a powerful exercise. And I just want to thank you so much for being with me on this journey. I am incredibly grateful to this community in so many ways. I love recording this podcast. I launched it on my birthday last year. And so this also means that it is the first year anniversary of my podcast as I get ready to, turn 50. So lots to celebrate, but really what I'm celebrating the most is you. It's this community that we are building, and I am just so grateful. So I am sending you lots of love, and I want to remind you that you are spiritually wired for love, for peace, for success, and for abundance. I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Spiritually Wired. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow and leave a review. It really makes a big difference for the podcast. And if you're ready to dive deeper and join a soul-led community, come be a part of the Spiritually Wired membership. With weekly live lessons and a rich library of recorded classes, it's designed to support you every step of the way on your spiritual journey. We currently have a special offer where you can receive your first month for half the price. You can find a link in the show notes or come check it out at reneewalkerwellness.com. Until next time, remember to take some deep breaths. Remember that you are spiritually wired.